Over the past 24 hours, we have seen Bitcoin drop more than 7%, and we are seeing huge corrections across the board for all the top cryptocurrencies. Now, of course, a lot of people are wondering why this took place. How could Bitcoin dump so fast in such a short period of time? Well, if you go to Google and you type in plus token moves Bitcoin, we can see that we've had reports yesterday that the plus token scam has actually moved $117 million worth of Bitcoin to exchanges most likely. And also 4 weeks ago, we had a similar report after we crossed above 10,000. If you guys don't know what plus token is, I definitely encourage you to do some research. They amassed a huge amount of Bitcoin in 2019 through a big scam that they were running. And when some of the leaders of this scam got arrested, they began dumping on the market. Overall, it's very hard to tell how many they still have because we can see that Plus Token has been mixing their coins and hiding the amount of coins that they have in total. And it's very hard to tell exactly how many more Bitcoin Plus Token still has to dump on the market. The only people who know for sure or have a pretty good idea are advanced on-chain analysts and blockchain intelligence groups, people who are using very advanced systems to track Bitcoin. Over the past, more than half a year since our peak at 14,000, we've seen many reports of Plus Token sending Bitcoin to exchanges, getting ready to dump. And just based off memory, I would say that Plus Token still has at least tens of thousands of Bitcoin to sell. I could be wrong about that. They could have way more than that or less than that, but I would say they still have tens of thousands of Bitcoin at least to sell just based off my own memory from the reports that I've read over the past many months. Again, it's very hard to tell exactly how much more Bitcoin they have to sell. And the crypto market was hit hard today after the Plus Token began dumping on the market. We can see that Bitcoin is down over 7%, Ethereum down over 11%, Bitcoin Cash down almost 12%, and all the top cryptos are following Bitcoin to the downside. And before we get started, guys, if you click that link below and sign up for the CryptoWatch platform, you can actually get 2 weeks free, right? It doesn't cost anything to create an account, but if you sign up for the basic package, you can get 2 weeks free to test out the platform. So definitely click that link below. If we go to the 4-hour chart, Bitcoin was creating some good constructive price action. We had some dumping during the global market fear. Bitcoin came down, found a set of lows. We tested as low as 8,400 here, and we rallied up, created a higher low above 8,600 and rallied up again. And right as Bitcoin was attempting to break out above 9,200 the other day, we saw a lot of selling just kick in out of nowhere. And very likely this was due to the Plus Token group continuing to sell off their Bitcoin. And again, we have reports that they were moving Bitcoin the other day. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we saw this extreme selling. Going to the 1-hour chart, this is not your average sell-off, guys. This is clearly whales dumping on the market. We tested as low as 8,159 on this dump, and we have since then seen a bit of a bounce. We are currently trading back above 8,300 right now, and a lot of people are probably wondering, is the worst over? It's hard to tell. If you don't follow me on Twitter, definitely follow me on Twitter. Today I said Plus Token scam moved another 13,000 Bitcoin yesterday, worth 118 million. They also did something similar after Bitcoin crossed above 10,000 this year. They are slamming the market with sell orders. Essentially, we have a giant whale unloading after every move up. The Plus Token guys have been systematically dumping their Bitcoin. The good news is, at some point, they're not going to have any more Bitcoin to sell. I'm still trying to dig for more detailed reports about how much Bitcoin the Plus Token scam could still have to dump on the market. As of right now, I really don't know. As Bitcoin was selling off here, I was telling you guys that these are prime levels to be accumulating Bitcoin. And even though Bitcoin has dumped further, I still hold the same opinion. These are very good levels to be accumulating Bitcoin in your preferred cryptos for the long term. And we're going to discuss why. If we back out to the 12-hour chart, you may have noticed that a lot of people have been analyzing this recent sell-off by sort of just mapping out a price channel, right? A lot of analysts have been just looking at this as a price channel. However they might want to draw this price channel. Personally, I think that's a little bit of an inaccurate depiction of what's going on here. I have identified this as a descending broadening wedge pattern. We have this area of resistance, and if you take your main areas of support, the most touch points for support since our sell-off, we can see that we have a pattern that's sort of widening as it is going down, a downward sloping pattern where we see over time that the support and resistance areas are actually beginning to spread. Now, this type of pattern you can identify as a descending broadening wedge. And according to Thomas Bulkowski, these patterns more often break to the upside during bull markets. Of course, a lot of people are beginning to discuss extremely bearish prices, Bitcoin's back in a bear market, all these things. And I completely disagree. Taking a look at Bitcoin from the daily chart, Bitcoin is still holding some key support levels. We're getting a little bit of a bounce off of the $8,200 level. We had previous resistance here and previous support here, and Bitcoin is continuing to hold this level. And if we do hold above 8,200, I do think that this descending broadening wedge pattern is going to actually play out to the upside in the end. If we can't hold the 8,200 level and we continue down, then it's possible that we could test as low as 7,700 before finding the needed support for a bounce. 7,700 is this previous support area from 2019, and it's also a resistance area from 2019. So if we do continue down, 7,700 is going to be the key level of interest. Now, it's hard to tell what Bitcoin is going to do because we have these plus token scammers dumping on the market. But this is a very, very big support range that we're dealing with right now, in between 7,700 and 8,200. I do think that Bitcoin is going to remain above this support range, this support box, and whether Bitcoin recovers from here or continues to the downside of this descending broadening wedge pattern, I do think that ultimately we are going to have a bullish breakout, and this would still be within the range of our inverse head and shoulders pattern, a longer term bullish pattern, which would indicate that the bulls are gaining momentum in the long term, despite the recent sell-off. Descending broadening wedge patterns are more likely to break out in a bull market. And some people are going to make the argument that we're not in a bull market right now. And yeah, you could, I'm sure there's ways to make that argument. But for me, looking at the macro trend here, we have a low at 3,100, we have a higher low at 6,400, and now we are continuing up to higher prices, still trading above $8,300 right now. And that means that whether we bounce from here or whether we continue down to 7,700 before we get a bounce, this is still creating higher lows on the macro trend. We were just talking about the $7,700 level, which is this previous support range. And the $7,700 level does come in along our upward sloping trend line. So it's possible that we could test as low as 7,700 before getting a bounce. If we can't hold 7,700 and we break below this range, this would be a very bearish sign for Bitcoin. Ultimately, we would be seeing horizontal lows again. We would see that it would be an indication that the bulls have lost their strength. But right now, Bitcoin is still seeing higher lows on the macro trend, and we are still remaining above this upward sloping trend line. Looking at all the other halving cycles for Bitcoin, we can see that we do hug the upward sloping trend line pretty closely during this uptrend. Again, we have one parabolic advance, two parabolic advances, and a break of the all-time high, and we generally hug the upward sloping trend line. We usually stick pretty close to it, and for the second halving cycle, we have one parabolic advance, two parabolic advances, and a break of the all-time high. And throughout this halving cycle, we hugged the upward sloping trend. And if we just go and take a look at what we're seeing right now, we have our first parabolic advance, and Bitcoin is hugging this upward sloping trend line. So as long as we can remain above 7,700 and find support, and maybe we hug this upward sloping trend line, then things can still remain bullish. If we do break down to horizontal lows again, then things would become much more bearish. But right now, the market is still looking bullish. We are still in a higher low trajectory overall in the macro trend. So despite the recent sell-off, I am remaining bullish on Bitcoin. Now, I've been discussing a little bit what would make me bearish on Bitcoin in this video, and we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen a break below 7,700. We haven't seen a break below this upward sloping trend line to meet horizontal support again. This type of market structure would tell me that Bitcoin is actually looking quite bearish in the long term. But this hasn't happened yet. We are still remaining above the uptrend, so I have to remain bullish until we actually break the structure. Right now, Bitcoin is still remaining within this long-term bullish structure. Now, looking at the homepage of CryptoWatch, we can see that, of course, all the top coins are kind of looking similar to Bitcoin right now. What I find very interesting, though, is I've been talking a lot about Chainlink. In my last video, and also on Twitter, I was saying that if we continue to the downside, you will very likely have an opportunity to buy below $4. And we actually just got a direct bounce off of $3.85. And if you look at my post on Twitter as well, the worst case scenario is you get another chance to buy below $4. If we continue to sell off, we would very likely be forming a bullish continuation pattern. And I was marking up $3.80 as a potential target. Chainlink actually just bounced directly off of $3.85. And we are seeing a really strong bounce back right now for Chainlink. Again, as I've been saying, the demand for this asset is extremely high. The demand for Chainlink is very high. And this is also something I shared on Twitter recently. I said the last time I saw this much demand for a crypto asset other than Bitcoin was Ethereum in the beginning of 2017. I think Link is going to look a lot like Ethereum did in 2017. And right now we are confirming that Chainlink does have a lot of demand. Let's just go into the 4-hour chart so that we can see this bounce back. A really strong bullish engulfing candle on the 4-hour chart. A lot of demand for this asset, seeing an extremely strong bounce back. So I'm very happy to see that we are confirming that Chainlink does have the demand I've been saying it has. There's a lot of demand for this asset, and the market is showing this right now with this incredible bounce back. But overall, I think I've made it clear exactly what I need to see from Bitcoin here. As long as we're remaining above this support box, ranging from 7,700 to 8,200, this descent and broadening wedge pattern can play out to the upside, and it is more likely that it actually will play out to the upside. Maybe it'll take up until mid-March to actually get the breakout that we're looking for back to the upside and continue the overall bullish trend to the upside. But overall, I'm still very bullish on Bitcoin, guys. As long as we can remain above this support box, then that would actually indicate that Bitcoin is gaining momentum. We would be creating an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And that would show that the bulls are actually creating a lot of strength and momentum for the long term here, and that very likely we would actually be continuing up, remaining above the upward sloping trend, and continuing bullish and looking for our second parabolic advance going into the halving. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to sign up with the CryptoWatch platform, which is the platform you see me use in all of my videos. And if you guys want extra content from me, join my Patreon, and I will see you guys in the next video.